Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. It's now 7:40 a.m. So if you're getting to work for 8, you have 20 minutes to drop the children off to school and to get to work for 8 a.m. Remember to stay safe on the nation's roads. All right, we continue conversations this morning with our guest. This morning we're speaking with Max James, political commentator, and we're talking about the T.H.A. reshuffle. We've been hearing so much about it, and so we're going to have that conversation this morning. Good morning, Mr. James, and welcome.
Hi, good morning to you, and good morning to all of our viewers.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we're going to head straight on into our conversation. You know, we've been hearing time and time about a reshuffle within the T.H.A. and we are wondering, is it going to happen from where you sit? I don't know if you have more information than we do, but from where you sit, do you see this reshuffle happening anytime soon?
I must admit that I'm a bit unprepared for that answer, or for that question. Sorry, because we haven't heard any firm decision on that question. I'm perhaps in the same boat as you are, perhaps as all of us, where there seems to be some indecision on behalf of the Chief Secretary, and maybe I can add members of the Executive Council. So it's difficult to stay at this stage when that is likely to happen. I did hear something yesterday about who is put where and who is not put where, but I can't even venture to say so, lest it might mislead some persons who are listening.
And that's right. That will just leave us up to speculation, not knowing until we have confirmation. As you said, they keep postponing because we keep hearing about it and they postpone and postpone. So we're hoping that it will happen soon. From where you sit, your viewpoint, is the reshuffle absolutely necessary for this particular administration right now?
Well, then again, I beg your pardon. I didn't get your name, Miss Combie. I think it is, right?
Correct.
Right, so Ms. Combie, or your first name, so I could call you on a first name basis if you don't mind.
I am Adanna Combie.
Adanna, okay. I'm so sorry about that. So Adanna, all administrations of any or every political party, there are times when it might become necessary to shift around members of the executive, as the case may be. So I can answer by saying that if it is when the Chief Secretary in this case sits down and he feels, perhaps after discussion, which is perhaps the better route to take with his members, he may believe that it becomes necessary. And I suspect he will have conversations with his team, and as the case may be, and members might feel, look, I might be better well served here in this other area or division, as is in the case of Tobago, and conversations again would take place. But yes, the straight answer will be yes. It can, I want to choose my words carefully, it can become necessary to have a reshuffle within the life of an administration.
Right, and you mentioned a few things. What are some of the primary benefits? The primary benefits of having a reshuffle in any administration, as you mentioned that it becomes necessary at some point in time. What are some of the reasons and the benefits for having a reshuffle?
Well, as I try to indicate to you, Adanna, you may have a particular minister or secretary underperforming. You may find that when a particular secretary or minister is put on the job and henceforth put to the test, you may find that there might be a need for a reshuffle or perhaps even outright dismissal. You can have that. And I'm speaking here generally. And then you may have perhaps illness, can perhaps warrant that somebody might say, look, I'm ill. I do not feel good. This portfolio is too much for me. And I mean that in a genuine way. And therefore, they may speak or they will speak, and members can agree as a group, or the minister, the prime minister in such a case, may determine that, look, this is a good move to reshuffle. Then you may have a minister or a secretary, in this case, here in Tobago, might be involved in some criminal activity, okay? Relocation. A member might decide, look, I've had enough and I want to relocate, or just straight family issues. We've seen that in the case of Trinidad, where the former Minister of Agriculture had to relocate, and so on. Another case is where the Prime Minister may feel that there are some things done best by him or her, and a reshuffle in such cases can be warranted.
So there are some things that you mentioned that I want to piggyback on. Two things primarily. One, the first one being the underperformance of the officer in the position. So the reshuffle will come because the person is either underperforming and not fulfilling their duties. Reshuffling them and sending them to a different division or department, or reassigning them, will that cause or allow them to perform better in a different area? Is it based on their skill set? And if it is based on their skill set, then why not have put them in that position in the first place?
Well, let me start with the end part of your question. The fact is, Adanna, is that there are many times and many things we don't know about the people who we place into different positions, okay? And therefore, it's not a foolproof decision that a chief secretary or a prime minister may make. And therefore, we can only know when they begin to perform. Some people might say, okay, I'm skilled in health matters because there I have spent a lot of my time as a public officer or as a private person in private business. Somebody may say, or based on their qualifications, might say I'm skilled in engineering, whatever form of engineering, and that person might say, listen, when the chief secretary or the prime minister, depending on where we are located, might say, your engineering skills, let me place you in works and infrastructure and that general area. But when we put you to the test, you will find that many times, Adanna, it is it's management competencies and not necessarily skill-based competencies. We may think so, but all you need really, as a deceased diplomat told me, and even when I was in the assembly myself, I experienced that myself, and now that I'm looking on, it has to do a lot of times with common sense and being able to have a significant grasp of the issues that are before us or before you, so that it's really a management competence rather than a qualification competence. And so then once we can discern or determine that this person here, as the case may be, can have or has a significant grasp or is able to grasp issues, it becomes a management issue, meaning your ability to manage money and manage persons who are within your ministry, your permanent secretary, or in this case, your administrator, as the case may be, even your chief administrator. And then the whole weight of political decision making also comes into play. You understand of the socio-political issues, your understanding of socio-economic issues, and therefore those things can be very testing. And depending on how persons performed, we will know whether we can keep them in a particular portfolio or not.
You mentioned here, right, about management. It's not necessarily about a skill set, but about management, which is also a skill. And if you have a situation now where you have to reshuffle persons because they are unable to manage where they are, there are no guarantees that they'll be able to manage somewhere else should you remove them or reshuffle them, reassign them. So this leads to my second question, now, which basically is the answer here, where you spoke about relieving them of their duties. Because if you can't manage, if you have shown that you are unable to manage in one particular division, for instance, because a reshuffle really is moving them around, right? So if you can't manage here, there are no guarantees that you can manage at in another portfolio.
The, the simple answer would be yes, because you might be, in fact, moving around an incompetence, right? I think that's what you're alluding to. So yes, you can move around an incompetent person, and yes, there's no guarantee that that person might perform better. But remember again, your executive council or your cabinet, many a times, those two functions are based on who would have offered themselves, or who the party might have selected to run for political office. So you have to pull from that pool of persons who are available. And when I say available, who would have won their seats, and now you begin to settle down to the task of governance. And therefore, all of those things are placed in the mix, so to speak. All right, and that is all the Prime Minister, or in our case here in Tobago, the Chief Secretary, can do. So it is, those things are a consequence of who would have been in the first place being selected for elections, and now they have to, as I said, they now have to settle down to the whole task of governance. So you have to take from what you have. If it becomes so onerous and so politically difficult in the whole of the 4 years, you don't want something to fester, and then you lose the next election. So sometimes we can quietly say, listen, you go here or you go there, and we are hoping for the best of circumstances, because we are not recognizing who we have or how onerous a particular portfolio can be, right? And it is in the absolute domain of any chief secretary and any prime minister to make a judgment call. Yes, indeed, as I said, it is more a management thing and not necessarily where you are academically qualified. Let me change slightly the angle and approach of answering the question. So, as I try to indicate, Adanna, you might be good at nursing. You might have been there for many years, so you understand a lot of health issues. And we may feel on the face of it that it's best I put you in health as a secretary, or in health as an undersecretary or assistant secretary. And it may turn out that because of your own personality, because of your relative inexperience, that you can't handle that particular portfolio. There may be others within the team, when I say team executive council, who perhaps can have or may have certain management competencies, generally speaking, or may have somebody who is skilled at human resource management. And some people say, why are you putting that person there? And they don't have even any qualifications or experience at all in health matters. But as I indicated, I know that I'm right. One of the main, if you wish, competency. What of the main competency will be your ability to understand, to listen, to grasp, and to make those kinds of the best value judgment that should be offered in resolving or dealing with a particular portfolio, particular issues. So it all comes down to your ability to grasp, your ability to understand, your your balance in terms of how you speak, your balance in terms of the decisions you're not erratic, but mostly your understanding of issues and your ability to make very balanced judgments, as the case may be.
Right, Mr. James. So I have a two-part question for you. You mentioned earlier that you heard about some reshuffling, some reassignments in relation to the reshuffling. Based on what you heard, do you think that the decision relating to that is, a good decision? And also, who do you think should be reassigned to different divisions or different portfolios?
Well, I wouldn't say what I heard, because we both agreed at the top of our conversation that what we heard might not be in fact true or may not be factual.
Not to say what you
So
heard, but based on what you heard, do you think that if it can work that way?
I don't know. I truly don't know, because I don't want to say something again that may not be true. But I would put that squarely at the feet of the chief secretary in this case, who ultimately has the responsibility to make a final decision. I can tell you this, that from what I know of the qualifications and relative experiences of the various secretaries and assistant secretaries, they're all, in my view, competent people. They're all, in my view, well experienced people. They're all, in my view, for the most part, highly qualified people, as any government minister in Trinidad or elsewhere. But as I'm indicating, the chief secretary is the best person, well, not maybe the best person, but he has his ultimate duty and obligation to make the best of what he has. I mean, they sat together and minus Mr. Duke now, and they took their decisions. We just have to pray and hope that those decisions bring the best benefits for us here in Tobago. My private views, I want to keep them, but as I try to indicate, they're all competent people. There have been, if you want me to say, I will only say this, there have been some significant mistakes throughput all of them, and that is normal when you're new to politics. And yes, I could say perhaps a reshuffling here, there too, might bring better energies on you, or fresh energies in another portfolio. I can say that, so that yes, a reshuffle can be in fact good, because, and to add another layer on top of my earlier comments, you may find that if I do a reshuffle now, it may calm political problems that are out there. It may even improve the stock of the political party that is in power. So all those things are considerations of why a reshuffle or reshuffling can or should take place. I don't want to hazard on air what I think. I would not do that. Except this thing was really bad, because, as I indicated, all of the members are highly qualified and with their relative experience or inexperience. It's a new team. I will admit that there have been some mistakes, perhaps even some terrible ones too. One has to be big and brave and so forth to accepting that, because yes, there have been mistakes, and you see mistakes even too at the level of central government, as we like to see. And yes, the Prime Minister has his challenges too. Kamala Prasad, the sister, had her challenges too. So, what you might ask me, if I'm willing to live with some of the mistakes, that's another question, but you must ask it first. But the issue is that we have to govern with what we have, and we have to hope for the best.
Mr. James, in my next conversation with you, I will ask you if you are willing to live with some of those mistakes. We've been speaking with Max James, a political commentator here in the Tobago space, as we speak about the T.H.A. reshuffle that keeps being postponed. When will it happen? Will it happen? Who will be reshuffled and what will happen there? Thank you so much for joining us and for bringing your opinions and your views where this is concerned. And we do await to see if this is going to happen and the rollout of same. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying with us on the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie, and this is where we end the show this morning, but we don't end our programming here. We go on to Tobago Notes and then to GMT with Chanel Felix. So stay with us. And as you stay with us, of course, we invite you to share the live, share the live, share the live.